In 1981, REO Speedwagon's High Infidelity topped charts for 15 weeks straight. But what Epic Records didn't tell anyone, just 6 months earlier, they'd written the band off as a $2 million loss. The label was ready to cut their losses and walk away. What happened next would turn a struggling Midwest band into a $30 million empire. But not the way anyone expected. In 1971, Epic Records saw REO Speedwagon as a low-risk investment. The contract told the whole story. A modest advance around $25,000 to split 5 ways, typical for new bands at the time, along with standard royalty rates and heavy touring requirements. Their self-titled debut died on arrival. Then the numbers got worse. Their second album, REOTWO, cost $80,000 to record but earned back barely half that amount. Ridin' the Storm Out drained another $100,000 from their account. Lost in a Dream peaked at number 98 before vanishing completely. Epic's internal accounting showed a band drowning in debt, with tour expenses exceeding earnings by $40,000 per month. While other Midwest bands chased radio hits, REO Speedwagon chose a riskier path. They hit every bar, club, and festival they could find, often playing 3 shows a day. The math was brutal: $400 per show, minus $200 for gas and hotels, minus another $100 for equipment repairs. But something unexpected was happening. Their live shows were building a following that Billboard charts couldn't measure. Epic's accountants kept close watch on the mounting costs. 6 albums, over 800 tour dates, and countless miles on the road, all adding up to a $1.2 million investment with minimal return. But what the spreadsheets didn't show, REO Speedwagon was becoming a regional powerhouse. By 1977, they could draw 20,000 fans to outdoor festivals in Illinois, even as radio stations ignored them. The breakthrough finally came with their live album, You Get What You Play For. Epic executives were stunned when it earned gold certification, proving what the band had known all along: their authentic sound connected with real fans. The album captured everything radio missed: the raw energy, the musical chemistry, and the pure rock and roll spirit that had built their following. But this hard-won success would lead to an unexpected ultimatum. As 1980 approached, Epic's new management team started pushing harder for a more commercial direction. The label saw other bands scoring hits with polished production and radio-friendly formulas. Now, after investing nearly $2 million in REO Speedwagon, they were ready to either transform the band's sound or cut their losses completely. By early 1980, the numbers told a brutal story. Epic Records had invested heavily in developing Journey and Boston into headlining acts, spending hundreds of thousands on their recording budgets alone. Both bands had delivered radio-friendly hits that justified the label's investment. Now, after 9 years and nearly $2 million invested, they wanted REO Speedwagon to follow the same formula. But what happened next would shock everyone in the music industry. During a pivotal meeting at Epic's New York offices, executives delivered their ultimatum. Market research showed their current sound reaching only 12% of the rock radio audience. The solution? Spend $500,000 on an outside producer, rewrite their material, and follow the corporate playbook to success. The label was ready to invest serious money, but only if REO Speedwagon surrendered complete creative control. What the executives didn't realize: the band had already started recording their next album their own way. Even more surprising, they were working on a power ballad called Keep On Loving You, but not the way radio expected. When Gary Richrath added his signature guitar sound to the track, it became something entirely new. The band wasn't just refusing to sell out. They were creating their own sound on their own terms. Epic's reaction was immediate and severe. Internal memos from April 1980 reveal the label's plan: cut their $100,000 recording budget in half, slash their tour support from $75,000 to $20,000 per month, and begin discussions with 3 major producers to reshape the band's image. One executive wrote, "Band shows dangerous lack of commercial awareness. Recommend immediate intervention or termination of contract." Between June and October 1980, they would have one chance to prove everyone wrong. Epic made it clear: deliver a hit record or watch 9 years of work disappear. The next few months wouldn't just determine their future. They would transform them from struggling musicians into either millionaires or cautionary tales. Between June and October 1980, REO Speedwagon took their biggest gamble yet. The recordings for High Infidelity began at Crystal Studios in Los Angeles, where the band faced their new financial reality: $40,000 for studio time, compared to Journey's $200,000 budget. Epic Records had slashed their resources, expecting the financial pressure to force a compromise. Instead, it pushed the band to work smarter than ever before. The label's skepticism reached new heights when they heard "Keep on Loving You." Their internal reports were brutal. Track lacks urban market appeal. No disco crossover potential. Projected radio impact below 20%. Some band members shared these concerns, until Gary Richrath added his signature guitar work, transforming it into something entirely new. It wasn't quite rock, wasn't quite pop, but it was undeniably REO Speedwagon. While the band focused on recording, Epic's marketing team was already raising red flags. A leaked memo from August 1980 spelled out their concerns. Band's direction remains uncommercial. Target audience unclear. Recommend holding release until material can be reworked. Radio programmers who heard early cuts were equally skeptical. The album's raw, emotional honesty didn't fit any format, making it impossible to pre-sell to program directors obsessed with proven formulas. The pressure began affecting relationships within the band. Recording sessions stretched longer than planned as they fought to capture the perfect sound. Every decision became crucial. One wrong move could trigger the termination clause in their contract, a move that would cost them $900,000 in potential royalties. They were betting everything on their instincts, working without a safety net for the first time. Studio logs reveal their determination. While other bands spent thousands on multiple takes, REO Speedwagon often nailed songs in 1 or 2 attempts. Their stripped-down approach wasn't just artistic, it was financial survival. Every extra day in the studio meant another $1,000 in debt. They weren't just trying to make hits, they were fighting to save their careers. By October, with the album finally complete, Epic Records faced their own decision. Early focus groups showed polarizing reactions. 60% loved it, 40% hated it. The marketing team struggled to position the album, unsure whether to target rock stations or pop radio. Some executives pushed to delay the release until the band recorded more commercial material. But REO Speedwagon stood firm. After 9 years of following the rules, they were ready to succeed or fail on their own terms. In November 1980, High Infidelity hit record stores with minimal promotional support. Epic Records allocated just $75,000 for marketing, 1/3 their normal budget for a major release. But something unprecedented was about to transform REO Speedwagon from Midwest favorites into global superstars. "Keep on Loving You" exploded onto radio, defying every industry prediction. Despite program directors' initial resistance, the song's unique blend of hard rock and emotional honesty struck a chord with listeners. What shocked everyone? The demographics. Internal marketing reports showed the song reaching both album rock listeners and the mainstream pop audience, a crossover that typically cost millions in promotional support to achieve. By March 1981, it had reached #1 on the Billboard Hot 100, giving REO Speedwagon their first chart-topping single. The album's success stunned the industry. Within just 6 months, High Infidelity sold 4 million copies in the U.S., becoming the best-selling rock album of 1981. The album spent 15 consecutive weeks at number 1, with sales exceeding 25,000 copies daily. Epic's pressing plants couldn't keep up with demand. Distribution reports from April 1981 show back orders exceeding 1 million units. The same executives who had doubted the band now faced an uncomfortable reality. They had a monster hit they weren't prepared to support. The financial transformation was immediate. Within 6 months, tour guarantees jumped from $15,000 to $75,000 per night. Arena shows that previously struggled to sell now had scalpers getting 3 times face value. Merchandising revenue exploded from $20,000 to $400,000 monthly. Radio stations that had ignored their previous albums now played deep cuts from High Infidelity in heavy rotation. By the end of 1981, the numbers told an extraordinary story. High Infidelity had earned diamond certification for 10 million U.S. sales, generating over $75 million in revenue. Global sales pushed past 20 million units. The album Epic Records had nearly shelved became one of their most profitable rock releases ever, surpassing even their carefully crafted corporate acts. Industry veterans took notice. The same radio consultants who had pushed REO Speedwagon to change their sound now studied High Infidelity as a template for success. Program directors who had resisted Keep On Loving You suddenly embraced power ballads as crucial to their playlists. The band hadn't just achieved success, they had helped reshape the sound of 80s rock. By early 1982, REO Speedwagon's leverage had completely transformed. The band that once begged for meetings with label executives now had unprecedented control. With High Infidelity generating over $75 million in revenue, Epic Records faced a stark reality. Lose them now, and watch another label profit from their investment. Internal memos show 3 major labels had already made discreet offers exceeding $5 million per album. Contract negotiations took a dramatic turn. Their new deal included what industry insiders called the nuclear option, complete creative control, and a royalty rate nearly double their original deal, roughly double the industry standard. Epic's advance for their next album jumped from $200,000 to $1.5 million. The band that once struggled to get tour support now had a guaranteed $1 million promotional budget. Their touring operation exploded. Arena guarantees hit $100,000 per night. Corporate sponsors lined up with 6-figure offers. A leaked accounting report showed their merchandising revenue hitting $800,000 monthly, more than their entire 1979 touring income. The band that once played Midwest clubs for gas money had transformed into a global business empire. Their influence reached beyond music. Radio stations that had once ignored them now sought their opinions on other artists. Former critics became champions. A confidential radio consultant's report admitted, REO's success proves the formula wrong. Recommend immediate format adjustments to accommodate similar crossover acts. The band hadn't just succeeded, they had changed how the industry evaluated commercial potential. Behind the scenes, the band maintained ironclad control over their decisions. When Epic suggested outside producers for their follow-up album, REO Speedwagon didn't just refuse, they negotiated an additional $200,000 for self-production. They had earned the right to make music their way, and they made the label pay for questioning their judgment. The transformation was complete. REO Speedwagon had evolved from struggling musicians into savvy business leaders. Their refusal to sell out hadn't just preserved their integrity, it had built them an empire that generated more annual revenue than most of Epic's carefully manufactured acts combined. As Kevin Cronin would later reflect, sometimes the best business decision is staying true to yourself and making them pay for doubting you. Today, REO Speedwagon's influence extends far beyond their sales numbers. What started as a $2 million investment became a $200 million enterprise. While other bands followed corporate formulas to success, REO Speedwagon proved that authenticity could be the most powerful business strategy of all. High infidelity remains their financial cornerstone. 4 decades later, songs like Keep On Loving You and Take It on the Run generate over $600,000 annually in streaming revenue alone. But the album's real legacy isn't just in its numbers, it's in how it transformed the power dynamic between artists and record labels. REO Speedwagon's contract became a template that managers still reference today, particularly its groundbreaking creative control provisions. The business impact echoes through the decades. Their merchandising strategy, keeping control of their brand while licensing selectively, set standards still followed by modern artists. Their touring model of building regional bases before national exposure is now standard industry practice. A former Epic Records executive recently revealed, "We learned more from REO's success than from all our market research combined." They proved that authentic artists could outperform manufactured ones. As streaming reshapes how music reaches audiences, REO Speedwagon's story remains surprisingly relevant. Their battle for creative control foreshadowed today's independent artists taking charge of their careers. Modern streaming data shows their authentic approach paying off. High Infidelity consistently outperforms more commercially calculated albums from the same era, averaging 8 million streams monthly across platforms. The band that refused to sell out didn't just save their artistic soul. They created a business model that generated more long-term revenue than most commercial acts of their era combined. As one industry veteran noted, REO Speedwagon didn't just win the battle with Epic Records. They rewrote the rules of the game entirely.